Okay, so last time we were discussing this new type of relationship model, which actually visualizes what our database should look like. So we talked about different types, such as composite attribute, a derived attribute, a base attribute, and so on. So a composite attribute was a particular attribute that had different um, types, that different sub attributes that you can combine together into a single attribute. Again, this would be represented in your database as a single attribute, but that's completely an issue. We also talked about multi-valued attributes, such as, for example, if you want a phone number, and if a particular customer can have multiple phone numbers, you can represent that using, in a database, you can represent that using a particular string, using different phone numbers separated by commas, and so on. And you can also have something as a derived attribute, which was different from a base attribute, in the sense that a base attribute would have been a birth date, and a derived attribute would be an age, right? So given a birth date, given the current date, we could easily actually compute the current age of a particular customer, right? We also mainly talked about mapping cardinalities, that was whether our relationship was a one-to-one, or a many-to-many, or a one-to-many, or a many-to-many relationship, right? Okay. We said that a one-to-one relationship is essentially given two entity sets. A particular attribute can only be related to another attribute in another entity set just once. So A can only be related to B only once, and vice versa. The other way around was one to many and many to one, where A could have been just a single relationship, and then A could have multiple relationships in B. So if we took the customer and a borrower relationship in this second, give me 2 seconds. That would mean that a customer can have multiple loans, but each loan can only be assigned to a particular customer, right? That was one-to-many relationship, right? A many-to-one relationship was the other way around, where each loan could be held by multiple customers, but again, each customer can have only one loan, right? And then we had a many-to-many relationship that was either way goes. Our customer can have many loans. Each loan can be held by multiple customers. So we had this sort of mapping where one-to-one meant that each customer can have only one loan and customer can't share loans, right? One-to-many was customer can, and this is specifically for the customer loan relationship, that was that borrower relationship, right? But you can imagine that this could apply to other relationships as well. Right? So a one-to-many relationship would be a customer can have multiple loans, where customer is one and loans are many. So a customer can have multiple loans, customer still can't share loans, right? A many-to-one was the other way around, where each customer can have one loan, but customer can sort of share loans. That means that it's a many-to-one relationship, so many customers can share one particular loan, but that also meant that weird sense that one customer can have a single loan, and if I am part of a joint loan, then I can't sort of have another loan, right? Does that make sense? Right, because I already have one loan as a joint loan of another with another customer. Okay, and then we have the generic many-to-many mapping, that is a customer can have multiple loans and customers can also share loans. That would be the generic case if we are building something like a database for a customer and loan relationship, right? But again, different situations require different things. It matters depending upon the domain expert and what they actually want. Depending upon their requirements, we would design this particular database uh, based on those requirements, and we would have those mappings accordingly, right? Okay. So any questions about these mapping cardinalities, that is one to one, many to one to many, or many to many? Okay, okay. Okay, we also talked about how we can represent this into our database as well. So we usually represent these relations using arrows. Arrows, just as a good rule of thumb, would be arrows would represent one, right? So if there are no arrows, it means that customer can have many loans can have a single customer, and so on, right? So, and many loans can have many customers as well. So this would be a many to many relationship, right? Many customers can have a single loan, many loans can be held by a single customer, right? So a many to many relationship. A one to many relationship would be a customer can have, so we have an arrow here. That means one customer can have many loans, but the other way around is not possible, right? So many loans can, one loan cannot be held by many customers. Because we have this arrow here, that means that it's a one to many relationship, right? If it was a many to one relationship, it would have been something like, let's see. But you guys can guess what this would look like, but just as a thing, let me just draw it out. So let's say that this was the customer table, and this was the loan table. And this would be a many to one relationship of borrower. If we had, let's say, a single connector here, and let's say, yeah. Sorry for the weird diagram, but essentially it would look something like this, right? Where basically it means that a customer can have, many customers can have one loan, but one loan can only be held by, so this is a one many to one relationship, right? So many customers can have one loan, but one loan has to be held by at least one customer, right? Okay. And then we had one-to-one mapping between customer and loan. That meant that each customer can have only one loan, and one loan is owned by exactly one customer. So depending upon the requirements that is posed upon whatever that database is, and whatever the database requires, we can sort of design our database in terms of this ER diagram, right? Okay. So any questions for this before we move on to the next thing? Okay. Okay, so access date. So how I'm guessing you're talking about this access date, right? Yes, very good question. So access date is a descriptive attribute, right? Okay, let me bring up descriptive attributes. Blah, blah, blah. Right. So descriptive attributes are attributes that are part of a relationship. So imagine that we have uh, uh, two tables. One is of the laptop, different types of laptops, and the other one is for different owners, right? So we can relate it to, let's say that the best way to relate it is one laptop can only have one owner, so it would be a one-to-one relationship, right? So a descriptive attribute could be that when did I buy this laptop? So that would be a descriptive attribute. That is something to do with the, so that is something to do with the relationship itself. Descriptive attributes are not primary keys. Descriptive attributes just describe and add some more information about the relationship itself. They are not primary keys on their own. And so in that sense, they are optional, yes. And if we want to include more details, so, such that when did that customer take out a loan? Or for example, a loan as a loan amount, let's say what else can we add? Let's say that we say that which branch did the customer take the loan out from? So those would be descriptive attributes for that particular loan, right? Those are not primary keys and we can completely opt out of those. Those are optional keys. Those are basically values that define that are in addition to the relationship itself. Does that make sense? How? Sort of. So customer and loan would have been would be a many-to-many relationship, and where access date would be when the customer actually took out that loan. We can do without it, but it is just an extra information that we would like to have. Okay. Any other questions about these representations? So the main thing that we need to remember is entity sets are represented by boxes. The entity name is the first top half of the box. The entity attributes, depending upon whether it's a derived attribute or a composite attribute or a basic attribute or base attribute or a single atomic attribute, depending upon that, we would write it like that. But essentially, all of the attributes go inside that box, same as loan, and relationships go in a diamond like this, and two or more entity sets can be related to each other. And if we want a many-to-many relationship, then essentially it looks something like this without any arrows. If we want a one-to-many relationship, that looks something like this, with the left-hand side has an arrow that represents the one, and a many relationship that represents without any arrows. If we want a many-to-one relationship, it would look something like this. That is many-to-one relationship. The arrow represents one essentially. And if it's a one-to-one relationship, it is arrows on both sides, right? Okay. So so we talked, mainly we discussed for last class, basically, we mainly discussed about mapping cardinalities, right? So today we are going to look at some other things about these AR diagrams. Mainly we will look at how to define primary keys. It should be quite simple enough, as we know already. And what about participation constraints, right? Okay. So before we do that, let's just have a quick review of keys in general. So an entity set means that each entity is unique. We already know that. It's a set. So each entity or each tuple has to be unique values. A